If you see the differences are going to be very powerful. And today we're trying to figure out a little bit more about what those differences can be. How do we use that for peak performance? Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon. So my name is Jason. People know me as Coach Jason Ho. And I've been on TikTok only recently. Last year, January, I started with dancing videos, like trying to act like a millennial, but unfortunately that didn't fly. Then I started doing sessions or talks about career. And the funny thing that I do is I give a perspective that's very different from the rest. Usually I give a perspective where I stand on the side of staff to help them understand leaders. And I also stand on the side of leaders to help them understand staff. So the interesting thing is that I can almost guarantee that your sibling found you strange growing up. And I'm married and I'm Singaporean. I look Japanese, but I'm not, right? I'm Singaporean, I'm married. Guess how many children I have? 10 is a bit too much, right? 10, wow. I start at what, 16, 18, right? 5, higher a bit, higher than 5. 6, you're right. I have 6 children, right? Yeah, nation building. So I have 6 children. My oldest is Sec 2, 14 years old. My youngest is 1, right? I have 4 boys, 2 girls. Okay, wait. Before you all say anything, the questions you have, same wife or not? Yes, same wife. Okay, same wife, okay. I'll say that very interestingly, I've been a geek to personality. So for me, I run this thing called Strength School, and we do a lot of personality tests. And we do for a lot of MNCs all the way to schools as well. And I realized that for personality tests, I've done personality tests for twins, and they're all very different. Even identical twins are totally different in personality. And what is interesting about personality is that personality helps us to understand a little bit more about who we are and what we can give back to the world, actually. And it all starts from personality, right? And when you have 2 children or more, like me, you will see that their personality all very different. And you don't know whether it's nature or nurture. But there's something different from, a little bit more on the nature part. It's, hey, you feel that there's something different from the start already, and you don't know why, right? I want to say that the differences that people see in each other, like you see with your colleague, you see with your union members, if you see the differences are going to be very powerful. And today we're trying to figure out a little bit more about what those differences can be. How do we use that for peak performance? So I've done 32 different jobs and businesses in my life. 32. I've been a financial advisor. I've won $1 Million Roundtable, MDRT. I've been very successful, but something was missing. I've done logo designs, and I was like, wow, I won an award, but something is missing, right? I've done, I was a professional will writer, and go to hospital when somebody's going to pass on, I write their will, help them. But something was still missing. I've done finance, I've done busking on the streets of Orchard Road. Who has done busking before? Busking on the streets. Okay, so for those who don't know, busking, you need a license, right? Like almost everything in Singapore. You need a license to do that, right? And I enjoyed myself. I was writing songs. Me and my friend, we write 100 over songs. We just sing. Some people in the weddings, they invite us. I've done that as well. I've been a balloon artist. You know those balloons? Yeah, in Takashimaya and all that, earning probably $200 for 2 hours. Not bad, right? So I've done a lot of things, and the reason why I do a lot of things is because for me personally, I needed to find out one thing. I needed to find out where do I belong in this world, right? I needed to find out what is so different about me that I want to be able to do, and I look forward to the work that I do. And the only way I could figure out is doing many different things. Now I want to say that after doing so many things, I realized that I was built for coaching. I was built for workshops, doing workshops for senior leadership or leadership teams, or even in-tech teams. Interestingly, I was built to coach. I enjoy coaching one-on-one in a big group. So that's me, personally for me. And that's my journey, right? Very hard to find a Singaporean that has gone through a lot. You might call it job hopping. I just call it just trying to find my meaning in the world, trying to find where I belong. Right? And I want to share with you that this experience I had shared with me a lot of things. The jobs that I did very well, without much effort, but I excelled in, used my talents and my strengths. the things that come very naturally to me. And the jobs that I didn't do very well or I struggled a lot are the things that I felt that, hey, it wasn't really leveraging or using or utilizing the strengths that I had. And that was the main difference. And I realized that that difference the world needs to know. And that's why for my TikTok, most of the time I'm talking about strengths. What is a strength? All of us have strengths, but what is it? So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. These are all clues to the strengths and the talents that we have. The reason why it's important to start thinking about this is that I've been obsessed with this thing called peak performance. How does somebody reach their best of their best? And a lot of times we feel that peak performance, you just learn and then you just put in a lot of hard work. That's not true. Peak performance comes when you take advantage of something that you have that other people don't have. So whatever you stood up for, it is a clue to some of the performance or the peak performance that you can do at work and even in the union, what you're doing here right now. Of all the things you do, you will gravitate towards certain things. And that's where we want to understand. You can use this framework to help not only your own team, but also to help your what? Your members. It's like, okay, for example, hey, I want to be able to do this job or a new job, but I don't know where. Where do I go? Something about here that resonates with them, that they feel alive, can be a clue. So what I want you to do now, I want you to think about this one thing. Think about this thing called your best day at work. Best day at work. That means at work, of all the years that you've been working, what is your best day? What is the one thing you feel that, wow, when I do this, wow, I feel like I come alive. I feel that I really enjoy it, right? And I want you to start to think about an actual day. Don't give me a fictitious day. An actual day that you had your best day at work. And what did you do? What tasks did you do? Right? Don't tell me that day is an off day. Right? Don't tell me that day is bonus day. Right? No. Tell me the day where you are doing something. It is important to understand as a performance coach, what exactly were you doing on that best day for us to replicate your peak performance? Make sense? When you share these things, what is interesting about the work we do is that when you're able to understand what is the best day that you have, you're able to actually replicate that. And it's important because as human beings, we are creatures of patterns, which means that the pattern kind of like goes again and again and again. And the more we understand the patterns that we have that is positive, the more we're able to replicate those patterns. But we need to audit it first. Audit basically means we need to see what is it. And what you have shared just now, if you shared really your best day, is you're sharing the best things about you. You are also sharing where some of the things where your organization you have is going to be, you're going to give the greatest value add to your organization. So for example, for me, the best day at work is coming up with ideas. For me, I've done this everywhere in my life, all the way from school to even church. When I was the creative director in my church, I was coming up with different ideas for different drama, to all the way to business, and I've done different businesses, and that's the different ideas I have, to even, so the ideas of coming out, let's try social media and trying out TikTok. That's also idea generation. So for me, it's very clear-cut. Throughout my entire life, success would mean, for me, to be able to hone those skills of ideas. That's personally for me. Some of you here is not ideas. Some of you here is something about people, helping people understand the best things about them. And that is like nurturing. There's a heart of nurturing inside you. Some of you here, that's the best things about you. That's why when a new intern comes in, you spend more time than usual with the intern. You spend more time than usual with somebody who's new. And that is that nurturing heart that you have. You can't really learn these things, and that's interesting. That's why we call it a talent. It's a very innate talent or strength that you have. That's why your sibling is different from you. Your children are all very different because there's an innate talent that people have. We want to figure out what do we do if we're able to actually use our talents, what is the benefits? So one of the benefits when we use our strengths and talents, we are 3 times more likely to say that we have an excellent quality of life. If you're able to use what you're talented in, you're going to have a better life. You feel that you're going to have a better life according to statistics. The next one, 6 times more likely to be engaged in their job. So what is engagement? Engagement means, if I were to break it down, there are 2 groups of people. One group is TGIF. What's TGIF? Thank God it's Friday. That means they look forward to their weekends, right? Life starts on weekends. What is TGIM? Thank God it's Monday. All of you like, got such thing? Like, who's, yeah? Right? There are. So there are people who thank God it's Monday and they look forward to Mondays. And I'll say that, imagine how many people look forward to Mondays. You don't have to answer the question, right? Right? Some people here, yeah. So I want to give you a statistics. Every 15 people you see in the workforce, how many do you think look forward to Mondays? Every 15 people. 5, 1. So the answer is 2. Around 13% of the workforce look forward to Mondays. Look forward, they are engaged in their job. So if you want to change that, or if you are not one of the two, one of the best ways you can change that personally is that if your boss and your colleagues understand what is the best things about you, you start to use your strengths, right? That's one way that you can change it the fastest and the most efficiently. And the next one is 12%, 12.5%. These are for profit centers if you're able to use your strengths. So we know that from research, strengths are important to understand. We know from personally for us, whatever you shared just now, there was a positive atmosphere because you felt great. Something about that great, best day that you had helped you become alive. You felt alive. So I'm going to share with you a framework that's going to be helpful to understand. And this is a strengths-based approach. How do I approach work? If any of your union members start to come to you and says, hey, actually, I want to be able to change industry or change job, how do I actually navigate that? Besides just learning skill sets, there's a particular way when it comes to understanding your strengths, right? So how we do that is that if you think about it, every job role that you have, every role, all of us here, we have 10, 15 things we do on a daily, weekly basis, right? 10, 15 things. There are some things that's bigger and some things that's smaller, and there are different colors. The colors basically means energize or drain. So anything you do at work, there are two ways of looking at it. For this task that I have, do I look forward to it? If I look forward to it, it is energizing. If I don't look forward, that means I open that email, it's like, wow, that email, okay, I unread tomorrow, then I reply. So those things I don't look forward are draining. So if you think about this way of thinking, you can also not only guide yourself, but guide other people. Because we are leaders here, we want to guide other people of what job potentially they want to go into. And one way is to understand that, hey, if it's energizing, it is actually using your strengths. So think back at the thing that you just shared, the best day at work. Whatever you shared was energizing to you. Like ideas, for me, it's highly energizing. From now until I'm 80 years old, I will keep coming out of ideas because it doesn't stop for me. It's just natural for me. Likewise for you, we need to discover what that is. I'm going to give you an example and I'm going to try to break some of the myths that we have about work. Okay, so you are my boss, right? And Jason is damn good at doing task A. Let's say I'm very good at doing task A. I'm 9 upon 10, competency. You're my boss. Do you think Jason likes it or dislikes it? Which one? Likes or dislikes? So the first assumption you have for anybody who's good at their task is that he must like it, right? That's the assumption. Okay, so Jason is good at task A, he must like it. As my boss, if you think that I like it, do you give me more or less? More. And that whole cycle that we just said is a myth. It's a lie. Why? Because there are some things that you do at work that you are good at, but it drains the heck out of you. And nobody knows that, except you. So how do I give you an analogy? It's almost like, if you think about it, if I tell an eagle, hey, eagle, you run very fast, and you run quite well. The eagle will look at me and is like, hey, what do you mean? Oh, you must be accurate because you're my boss. So if I run, and if the eagle takes 5 hours to run 1 km, and the ostrich takes only 2 minutes or 5 minutes to run 1 km, as a boss, I only look at who comes down the finish line. And I think that, hey, the eagle is as good as the ostrich. They all run very well because by the end of the day, they finish their task. However, I'm not looking, as a boss, I'm not looking at their peak performance. I'm assuming that. So this equation that we just shared, that means if somebody's good at it, they must like it. If they must like it means we give them more, is the normal way of managing people. And I want to say that this is a lie, and this is a myth. It is not true, right? Because you can be good at something, but it drains the heck out of you. Think of it this way. Think about your own life. There's some things you do that your boss and your colleagues think you're very good at, but actually you don't look forward to, right? But they think it is a strength. I'm telling you that's not a strength. That is a weakness that you have. But it's a learnt weakness, and we learn to grow into it. My personal belief is all of us are born with a particular greatness. I will say only 2 or 3 mountains, that's it. We have thousands of valleys, but we probably have only 2 or 3 mountains. That means we can be really good in. The key is to figure out what those 2 or 3 are and then build on that. And when you build on that, guess what? You are happier as an individual, and the company is happier because you are providing the best value add. Because guess what? The 2, 3 mountains, you are more creative than anybody else. You have more initiative, and you break the industry barriers more. You think outside the box more for those 2 or 3. The best person and the only person who knows what's your strengths is yourself. And it has something to do with your emotions. Your emotions is like a litmus test. It's almost like a, I don't want to say COVID test, but it's positive, negative. But okay, it's like a test, right? It's like a test where when you test it, am I emotionally looking forward to it? It is a test to say that if I'm emotionally invested into it, it is using my strengths. If emotionally it drains me, it is not using my strengths. And the funny thing is that as adults, we tell each other that, hey, don't talk about emotions at work because that's outside. That's only for primary school, that's only for secondary school. I tell you, the best peak performers are the ones that when they close their eyes, they dream about the things on the primal greatness. And that's where they get peak performance. They beat you in time, effort, hard work, and all that. Because they close their eyes, it is still something fun to them. And that's why they're the peak performance. It doesn't matter what job we do. Like I said, I can be a nurse and I can be at peak performance because I know of all the things I do in nursing, this thing coming out of ideas is the best things about me. So I will keep giving ideas and suggestions on how we can do things better. All of us are not spared with things that drain us. We just need to know that that is not what we should major on. Make sense? So there's no job. Right after this, don't go to your boss, hey, boss, Coach Jason will say, all these are out, no? Maybe I shouldn't do that, no? No, like, I'll never come back here again, please, tolong, right? There will always be things that drain us. Your greatest performance will come always in things that energize you, right? Same thing in primary school. You're energized about a topic, you score better than everybody else with less effort. You didn't really study, but you get A. How come? Right? So maybe it's for you, some of us, it's design and technology. It's like, wow, when I do this, very easy for me. How come my friend can't even do it properly? That is a strength. And then the last thing, when you identify the bright sparks for your team members, you can forge this thing called strengths-based partnerships. The best partnerships are the partnerships where your mountain meets their valley and your valley meets their mountain, right? So we want to be able to overcome that, and that's the best kind of partnerships. So the funny thing about nature and nurture, who has 2 children? Again, 2 children or more? Yeah, you ask any parent with 2 children or more, they believe in nature because they're very different from a young age. There is no scientist that will tell you which is nature and nurture. There is a case where the environment of where you grew up affects you as well. However, what I've realized in terms of the job that you do, it is dependent on a person, yourself. So for example, I have friends who all the whole family doctors. He doesn't want to be a doctor, he wants to make shoes, right? So it's always that special uniqueness. And that's the beautiful thing about DNA. In the last 10,000 years in humanity, there's no DNA like yours. And in the next 10,000 years, there will never be another DNA like yours. You are special in this time and age only for the next 100 years. Same thing for personality. You are unique. You're trying to figure out what that is. So nature and nurture, nobody really knows. But I'll take it as this. If you have tasted something, and something could be a job, Something could be a task. Once you've tasted it, it's almost like food. When you haven't tasted durian and your overseas Ang Moh friend come, it's like, hey, I tell you how durian tastes like. It's like that. It's like, no point. They need to taste it, then they know. So same thing for us in terms of tasks. The more we taste the task, like I've never done design. I tried it out a few times. Okay, this one drains me. It's very clear that if it drains you, it will never become things that energize you, right? So that's why there are numbers people, non-numbers people, there are design people, non-design people, there are people who love to hang around crowds, and there are very non-people people who love not to, right? And I'll say this one thing, interesting thing. Imagine this, when you're primary school, secondary school, do we have friends that are nerds in our class? Super nerdy one, right? So anyway, there are nerds and there are party goers in our class. Those people who talk very loud and those people who are very quiet. Have they changed over the last 30, 40 years? No, they haven't. So the nerds will kind of become socially more acceptable. They will go upwards, right? They will learn to socialize. And the party goers will learn to socially norm downwards. So they like, oh, I'm too loud, too obnoxious. People think that I'm attention speaking. Now at the company, I learn to tone down. And then for the nerds, I learn to tone up. So they are still nerds or still party goers. Every now and then you see them on Zook Out on the podium, for example, right? But it is innate inside them. What am I trying to say? People don't change. That's why your sibling doesn't change. He just matures to become more socially acceptable. Same as us, we also. At what age should we stop trying? At no age we should stop trying. Because KFC, Mr. Colonel Sanders, started at 65. And then he created KFC, but after many different failures. What I'm saying is that the human spirit inside us, we want to effect change, but also positive change. There's something inside you that is special and unique to you. You are that one jigsaw that nobody else can replicate. Within that jigsaw, there is impact that you have that nobody else will have. And that impact is things that energize you. It could be, like now, you are very straightforward, and that's beautiful. Some people will love you for that, some people might not love you for that, but that's okay, that's you. Like, same as me. Some people love my ideas, some people hate my ideas. But that's okay. If you are straightforward, you mix it with the things that you do at work right now, you're able to serve a certain group of people that nobody else would. And it could be that you're the voice of the people that other people don't, right? Because you dare to do that, and that's great. So what I'm saying is that in any age we have, we still want to have that meaning and purpose in our life. And meaning and purpose is unique to you. And sometimes we don't know because we can't list it down. So the best way, other than listing it down, is listen to your heart. Things that energize you is meaningful and purposeful already. So figure out, of all the 10, 20 things you do, what are the things that you gravitate towards? That's where your heart sings. That's where the world is appreciative of you. So I like this quote by Howard Thurman. This is his quote. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So I give you this clear example in school. When I was in primary school, secondary school, there are some teachers, chemistry teacher come in, she'll say that, okay, you read chapter 1, first paragraph. You stand up, read chapter, second paragraph, third paragraph. The entire class was just like that. Every chemistry teacher, every chemistry lesson was like that. In my mind, when I was looking at it, it's like, what on earth are you doing here? Why are you teaching? You don't love the subject and you don't love us as students, so why on earth are you here? Yet in secondary school, I saw teachers like history. I hate history, but she was so enthusiastic about history. She's like, this is why Singapore was like that. I grew to love history because of that, right? So she loved the subject and she loved the students. We want our students, our children, to be taught by this teacher and not that teacher. The teacher who has fire in their eyes and not the teacher who's like there for the sake of being there. So I'm saying is that even in any age, you can find that spark inside you and then you can just fan it. And the funny thing about this is all of us will have a spark and an ember. It's a little coal. We just have to fan it. We don't have to find it. We just have to fan it. Because all our sparks are different. So in every report card that we have at work, it's an ABBF, right? Every report card that we have. That means we have things that we are good in and things that we're not so good in. Average, that means, and things that we fail. As a performance coach, where do I allocate resources to grow in this? Can we leave it as an F? Impossible, because you leave it as an F, guess what? Your team will suffer because you are at the F. You are playing in this F. What must you do? You must make it at least a what? C. Just pass. Right? So you put in effort here, where you put in effort to try to grow your F into a C. Then the question is, what do you want to do with your A's? You want to be able to put in more effort here after that. So the greatest analogy is you have 1 liter of water every day. 1 liter of water to improve yourself, to put in effort. What should you put in? As a performance coach, your F will never be an A. Or if you want to have an A, it will take 20 years. A waste of time, right? So your F, maximum probably you can reach a C because it doesn't help. It doesn't pull the team down. So 20% of your 1 liter of effort you have should go into your F to make sure that you just pass. That means just pass is what? Basic competency. I spell wrongly, never mind. Right? Then the next one here, you should put the additional thing here. And this is your Jack and the Beanstalk. A little bit of water, it shoots up. It has no excuse. If it's an F, you must make it to a C. It is your duty. There's no excuse. However, majority of your time should be in your A's, because your A's actually can go up to maybe 100 A's, or we call it world-class standard, or close to world-class standard, or either company class standard, whichever you feel. Right? So the 80-20 rule roughly applies. Make sure you have no more F's, make it a C. However, the funny thing about leaders don't just, do leaders talk more about your A's or your F's? When I coach most leaders, they talk about your F's, they don't talk about your A's. They call it what? Areas for improvement. Very sexy name for the same thing, right? AFIs, areas for improvement, or gaps. So a lot of times we focus on this, we ignore this. And I want to say that affects the human spirit, because they want to know what they're best at. And nobody tells us what they're best at. And that's why when you think about a boss that goes to you and says, you are brilliant in this, I noticed this about you, you are shocked, because that is not usual. But if a boss does that, it sticks into your heart and you will remember it for the rest of your life. So it's very rare that bosses point out the best things about you. As leaders here, we should try that we can do that to other people. Who here runs marathon? They feel energized running marathon, right? If I ask you, after you finish running a marathon, how do you feel in your emotion? How do you feel in your emotion when you finish? Very satisfied. How do you feel? Satisfaction. How do you feel right after? Satisfaction, right? Physically, how do you feel? Different. Physically, how do you feel? Tired. Physically, right? If I ask you, after this marathon, straight away join another marathon. And after that, join another marathon. 3. How do you feel after the 3rd one? Burnout. So it's the same thing. In an environment where we keep pushing the body, it leads to burnout. Even though you feel energized doing something, your body has a limitation. And if you keep pushing the body enough, the marathon runners will say, I don't want to run anymore, because it's too much. So there is a case where environment of how much you push the body affects even this. It is still that they love marathons after the 3rd one, but in their mind, it's overshadowed by the amount of pain and the pressures of the body. And that's why they might not say, I like running marathons after the 3rd one. But if they give them enough rest and an environment where there's enough seasons of summer and winter, they will love marathon running until a very long time. Make sense? So there is an environmental play, and the human body, there are limitations. But inside here, they still like it, it's just that it affects them so much.